So again, we're going to talk today about just writing our first blog post, or for some of you guys, maybe your next blog post. And so as you can see on my screen here, we're on the home page of ActiveRain. So there's a couple of ways that we can get to the place where we're going to start that first or that next blog post. And if you've already written one, you know where these places are. The first one would be this little My Home button up here in the top right-hand corner of the screen. And if we were to click on that My Home button, you're going to land on a page that looks like this. And this is the page that you guys all log into each day when you land on ActiveRain. And we're going to come right over here and click Write a Blog Post. And doing that's going to serve us up this little box where we can write a blog post. The second place where you can go to create a blog post would be from this Blogs button up here at the top of the page. And so clicking on that Blogs button, it's just going to land you on this page here where you can kind of browse some of the other blogs that members are writing. But right up here at the top, there's going to be a little option for Write a Blog Post. There's actually a third place that we can get to this page, and that would be from your blog itself. And your blog itself is, you can access your blog over here, right? My AR blog. So that's going to send me to my blog. And right up here at the top is going to be an ability for me to add a new blog entry here as well. So there's three ways we can get in, and again, all of those are just going to bring us to this page where we begin to craft our blog post. As we get in here, the very first thing we're going to do is give this blog post a title. And we will talk a bunch more next week about titles, and from a search engine perspective, and the perspective of getting our content to rank well in the search engines, titles are ultra important because they kind of set the foundation for the phrase or the keyword that we want to rank for. So we'll talk a bunch about that next week. When you're writing a blog post that's not necessarily aimed towards ranking in the search engines, and that should probably be the majority of the posts that you write, but if you're not writing a post of that nature, maybe you're writing a post that you plan on just emailing out to a few of your clients, or you're writing a post that's geared towards your peers, right? You want that title to be something kind of catchy. And again, when we're looking through different areas of the site, right, a lot of the ability for somebody to, or the want for somebody to click on what you've written is based on what your title is. So when it's geared towards your peers and it's going to be something that you're hoping other members of ActiveRain will dive in and read, we want it to be something that kind of captures the eye, it's engaging, or it's catchy. When it's geared towards consumers, we're going to spend the whole hour next week talking about the concept of the title and what kinds of things we want to make our titles out of. Once we have a title in there, we're just going to come down here to this entry field and we're going to start typing away. Now, I promise you don't want to watch me type, so before the class, I came in here and I actually filled out a piece of content that we will use for this example. So this particular piece of content is about short sale properties in Wallingford, Seattle. So I'm going to give it the title, Short Sale Properties in Wallingford, right, Seattle. Maybe I'll say WA or something. Okay, so down into the body or the entry field here, one of the things that's going to be kind of a theme for us today is as you're going through and writing your blog post, one of the things that I see, a lot of, I don't say a lot, but definitely a fair number of people do when they first get in here and they get started is this concept of kind of a wall of words, right? They just start typing. That they're not using the return button to create some good white space and some good spacing on their blog post. So you want to make sure that, feel free to liberally use that enter or return button. One of the things about that return button is you'll notice when I hit return, which I'm doing right now, it drops it down a full line, okay, with that line of space in here in between. If I wanted to drop it half a line, I would hold shift and hit return, and that would drop it half a line. You see the difference there between, that full line of space and holding shift, return, and getting kind of a half line of space. So, but again, I like good white space on my pages, and one of the reasons for that is when somebody's eye lands on my blog post, so they've found it, they've done a search in Google, they've landed on the piece of content, I don't want them going cross-eyed trying to look at it, right? I want that good white space in there so that they feel like, okay, this is a piece of content my eyes can consume. So white space will be a theme, especially as we get into images and and video and adding some of the different things that we can add into a blog post. We want to make sure that we're aware of the layout and of that white space, because again, it's going to be really important when somebody first lands there. We have a very short amount of time. We have about 5 seconds, if that. These days it's getting even faster and faster. We have about 5 seconds to kind of capture that person's attention as they land on the page and they decide whether or not they want to consume this piece of content that we're serving up to them. Okay, so you'll see I've gone through, and what I generally would encourage you to do is before you start messing with any of these formatting options and any of the things that we can do to make our posts look a little bit more professional, presentable, a little bit prettier, get all of your content written out. So what I've done here is I've just gone through and typed out everything that I wanted to say in this particular blog post, and I've done some basic formatting in terms of using that return key, right, and getting that good white space, and breaking my content up into paragraphs. I've got a few kind of headers in here that you'll see where I've just kind of given a little bit of an indication of what they're about to get in the next couple of paragraphs. So again, I'm just laying this out from the perspective of somebody's going to land here, and man, I want them to read this thing and get in there and consume it. So let's deal now with all these little icons that we have up here that give us an ability to kind of, make our content stand out a little bit. These are pretty standard text editing icons like you would see anywhere else on the internet, right? This gives us the ability to bold something. So if I wanted to come in here and bold that, I could do it, right? This gives me the ability to put something in italics. So sometimes you'll see like I have a quote in here from a Green Lake homeowner, right? I might throw that in italics, right? This gives me the chance to underline something. So if I really wanted to drive a point home, I could come in here and underline it. Real basic. Strike through is something that you can use. I use strike through when I'm joking around, right? I'll write something in my blog post and I didn't, I was kind of being a smart ass or something like that. I'll strike it out and put the thing that would have been more appropriate for me to say. You'll also see people use strike through when they maybe come back and amend something that they'd originally written that maybe wasn't correct or something of that nature, and they want to kind of leave the integrity of the blog as it was originally posted there. They'll come back and do like a strike through. So I would just, highlight the words I wanted to control. I would click the strike through. It would add the little strike through deal there. Any of these options that I take, I can undo by highlighting and clicking it again, right? These 4 right here are just alignment. And so as you, originally generate the post, it's going to be aligned to the left, okay? This would give us an ability to align something to the center. So let's say I wanted to take like these little headers that I've done, and I wanted, or the kind of the breakdowns, and I wanted to center those up. I could do that. This is aligned to the right, and I'll be quite honest, I've written, 400 or 500 blog posts. I've never once used align to the right, but if you wanted to align something to the right, I guess you could. I'm not exactly sure why you would do that, but it's an option, okay? So let me throw these things back over here to the left. This is aligned full, and I'll show you what this does. As you look here along the left-hand side, you'll just kind of see that, it's kind of a jagged edge there. If I wanted to take this paragraph and use that align full, that will just pull these words kind of out to the edge and give me nice clean edges. This will be really important when I add a picture in a little bit and I actually wrap text around a picture. I'm going to use this align full. It just gives a nice clean look, and you guys will see that here in a minute. Indent and outdent, right? And you'll notice outdent's not live yet because everything we have right now is currently all the way to the left. But if we wanted to take, let's say I wanted to take this quote and I wanted to set that quote off from the rest of the content, I could click the little indent button right there, and that's just going to throw that content in, kind of set it off from everything else that's on the page. Unordered list and an ordered list. So what I like to do when I'm adding a list of some sort, either bullet points or a numbered list. So let's say that the steps to buying a short sale in Wallingford. We're going to tell them to get pre-qualified. We're going to say find a great agent. And we're going to say I don't know, start looking at houses. Obviously that's a pretty non-detailed list there, but what I'll do is I'll just type each one of those out. I'm hitting enter in between, then I'll come back and say, okay, I want to throw this in a bulleted list, or I want to throw this in an ordered list, and as I come back here and I begin to continue to try to type, it's going to say, well, hold on there, you're number 4, and I'm like, I don't want a 4. I just hit enter again. That's going to bring me down. Then I come down here and I might want to back that up to keep my spacing kind of consistent in there. Okay? All very simple stuff, right? You'll see my post is starting to take shape a little bit. I've got italics in there. If I wanted to have had some bold in there, I could have done that as well. Okay, so here's a little trick, and you guys will see people using these kind of larger headers. So I mentioned I've got kind of some subheadings in here to kind of break my post up a little bit. There's a little trick that I've learned. If I highlight this, and let's say I want to make that a little bit larger and a little bit easier for people to pick up. If I hold on a Mac, I'm going to hold the Command button. On a PC, you would hold Control. Okay, so Command or Control 2. Command or Control 3. So I'm holding Command and hitting 3, and you'll notice this is changing. It's basically putting header tags on these different pieces of content. So that's an H2 header tag. That's an H3 header tag. So maybe I like the size of that one. So I'm going to come down here and make this an H3 header tag. What did I just do there? Something I didn't want to. And then I'm going to come down here, make this. Again, it's just Control 3 or Command 3 in my case because I'm on a Mac. All right, so that's a really easy way to kind of get those big headers into your content. And again, it just gives people, it allows their eyes when they land there to see, is this the content that they were looking for? And if they had done a search on Google on short sale properties in Wallingford, Seattle, right, I want them to be able to real quickly identify, this is what you wanted. Okay, there's a section in here about what kind of short sales are in this area. There's a section in here about the steps to buying a short sale in Wallingford. And in that 5 seconds, very quickly they get an idea of what is going to be delivered to them if they decide to dive into that piece of content. Okay, so we've got those header tags in there. Again, this thing's starting to take shape. The next little icons that we see in here are link icons, and you'll notice they're grayed out, right? We can't click on these yet, and the reason for that is because we have to actually determine which words are we going to create the link out of. So the first link that I'm going to place in here, you'll notice I have a sentence in here that says, click here if you want to find the currently available short sale properties in Wallingford, Seattle. So I'm going to make my link out of the phrase short sale properties in Wallingford, Seattle. In order to do that, I'm just going to highlight that. Now I've got the ability to click this, and you'll see it now becomes an active icon. So I need to jump over to my website here, and I need to figure out, oops, what is it, serving your town. That's my website. And I need to figure out, a link where I'm going to send somebody if they were looking for Wallingford, Seattle, and I wanted to give them just the short sales in Wallingford, right? Because that's what we're talking about in this particular post. So I'm going to run that search real quick, and now I've got a good link that's going to give them, the short sales that are available in Wallingford, Seattle, because that's what my post is about. So I'm going to come back here. We'll dive into these concepts, this link concept in the third week. We'll dive into why I'm even writing about short sale properties in Wallingford, Seattle next week. But from the perspective of, can I add a link to my piece of content, I'm just going to highlight the words out of which the link should be created. I'll click the little chain. I'm going to paste my link in there. And again, I got that from my website. I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to tell them to open this link in the same window. And here's a real quick rule of thumb. If you want them on the page you're sending them to, open it in the same window. If you would prefer that after following the link they come back to your blog post, open the link in a new window. So if you're sending them over to your website where there's a list of properties and you ultimately want them to become a lead on your website, you're going to always open that link in the same window. So I'm going to say Wallingford, Seattle, short sales. And I'm going to go ahead and insert that link. So now I've got a link, right, in my blog post. So and again, I create this because now somebody can click on this, as opposed to me having said, if you want to find a list of Wallingford properties, go there, right? This big messy thing that we don't want necessarily in our content. We want it to be clean. Everybody knows that, something underlined like this, and once we post it, it's going to be a different color than the text, just like it is now, so people know that's a link, right? Okay. If we wanted to bust that link up and get rid of it, we could highlight it again and just hit this unlink button, which would kill it. Okay, the next one is insert or edit an image. So there's a variety of ways that you can place an image into your content. I'm going to show you probably the two most common ways that you can do that. And so one is just placing an image in between two lines of text. So let's say I've already got this one kind of half space in here. I'm going to come here to the end of this paragraph. I'm going to hit return. So I'm going to have created this full line of space in here where I can now place my image. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to hit insert or edit image. Okay, it's going to pop this little box up. And there's two ways that I can get an image onto the page. I can either take the image that's hosted somewhere else on the internet. So every image on the internet has a URL that it's hosted at. Okay, for instance, let's say I wanted to take this image right here. If I hit, it's right click on it, right? I can come in here and I could copy the image location, or I could even view the image, right? That's the URL where that image is hosted at. Okay, so if I was to come here and copy that URL, right, I could come back to my blog post and I could actually paste it in this image URL field. When I did that, right, it's pulling that image from wherever else on the internet it's hosted. That's probably not the way you want to go in most cases. In most cases, the way you would want to go is to actually have the image on your local machine and to post it or host it on ActiveRain. In order to do that, what you're going to do is you're going to come up here and hit this little browse button. So browse, I'm just going to pull up my ability to browse my own computer. I'm going to hit browse, and then I got to come in here and find the picture that I want to use. And so in this case, I'm going to use this Wallingford house picture because I'm writing about Wallingford short sales. I'm going to hit upload photo, and now it's thrown kind of the picture in here, and I can see what the picture is going to end up looking like. Did I grab the right photo? Yes, I did. Okay. I want to give it an image description. The image description will be what the search engines identify the picture as being of. So in this case, I might say this is a short sale property in Wallingford. So if somebody was to ever go, I might make this craftsman home in Wallingford. Whatever I put as the description is going to be when somebody searches in Google, if they were looking for images in Google, Google will say, this picture right here of this blue house is this. And in my case, I named it a short sale property in Wallingford. Okay, the title becomes what somebody sees when they hover their cursor over the image. So maybe I say Wallingford craftsman or something. Okay, so that's the general tab. Now we're going to flip over here to the appearance tab. Okay, so remember, I had my cursor right here, which is kind of dictating where my image is going to end up. It's going to end up in between these two lines of text because that's where my cursor was when I went to insert the image. The alignment right here will determine how the text around the image interacts with the image. If I'm placing my photo in between two lines of text, I don't need to do anything with the alignment. Okay? The dimension, this is how big my photo is. You do not want to get your photos any wider than 600 pixels. And the first dimension is going to be the width. So it will actually allow you to upload pictures up to 800 pixels wide. Well, it'll allow you to upload larger pictures than that, but it will automatically resize them to a maximum width of 800. You need to bring that down to 600 at the very most, okay? So I can leave mine at 500 here. Let's say I made it, 480. When I hit tab or I just put my cursor in the next field, it will automatically resize that second one for me. Okay, vertical and horizontal space. The next way that I put an image in, I'll show you this, but this essentially creates white space around the image. So as I add a number in here, watch this. Watch how the letters over here interact with the image. So let's say I wanted to do 15 pixels of white space around the image. See that? That was above and below. So vertical space going to create 15 pixels of space above and below that image. And then horizontal space, maybe I give it a 15. It's going to create 15 pixels of white space, right? White space is good, around the image on the left and the right. then I could actually give this image a border. Let's say I wanted to give it like a 5-pixel border. So I could hit 5, and it's just going to create this kind of, that's the code that happens behind the scenes that kind of tells it where to place this thing on the page. I'm going to go ahead and hit insert, and you'll see now I've got my photo. It's dropped in between 2 lines of text here, right? We can't really identify the white space because we had already created white space for ourselves by hitting that enter button and creating that extra line of space in there where we placed our image, but we see our border here, right? When we click on the picture again, we can actually, in the corners here, we can see we have the ability to manipulate the size of it. So if I wanted to come in here and make this thing a little bit smaller, I could do that. After I click on the photo, I can also center it up if I wanted. I could align it to the right. Let's say I wanted to center this photo in there. So there we go. I got my photo nice and centered. Okay, I could even create a link out of this photo if I wanted. And again, I would just click on the photo, and I could come up here and make this photo a link. Okay, let's say I want to come back here. So I click the photo, right? I'm going to now come up here and manipulate it by clicking this little image button again. I could even make this, say I wanted to make it blue. Actually, let's make it red. Right? So I can manipulate these things a little bit to get my photo looking how I want. Now, ooh, red, that looks a little bit, what's the word, ostentatious? It looks, it's a lot, okay? I'm going to come back here and maybe bring this thing back to black. Okay, so that's one way we can place a photo in. Watch when I grab this. I can actually move it around here, and this is a little bit hard to see for you guys maybe, but if I wanted to move this photo, I can do that by kind of placing the photo wherever I want. So you'll notice it dropped down a paragraph, so I can grab that photo and move it around. I just got to be mindful of where my cursor is in there. Do you guys see my cursor sitting at the end of friends? That's where the photo is going to drop, right at the end of the word friends there. So here, I come in here, I drop at the end of homes. It's going to drop in there at the end of homes. So there's one way I can get a photo into a piece of content. Here's a second way, okay? And this is actually the way that I like to place my images in my blog posts. And I do this because whenever you read the newspaper, you go to like the professional CNNs, the ESPNs, right, these professional websites, this is generally how you will see images placed in an article. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to start with my cursor at the very top left-hand corner of the piece of content. I'm going to bring my photo in here, so I need to go grab it. Right? I'm going to browse for it. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to get my Wallingford. Right? And in your guys' case, you wouldn't be placing the same photo in there, but let's see what this one is. This might be something different. So I'm going to hit upload. Oh, here we go. Click here to find short sales in Wallingford. Okay, so I'm going to title it again. All right, I'm going to come over here. Okay, so now the appearance becomes a factor, and I like to have my text wrap around my image. Okay, so in order to do that, I'm going to come in here to the alignment, and I'm going to use either left, which will place my image on the left-hand side of the page, and then wrap the text around the right, or I'm going to use right, and I will generally use right. So it's going to place the image on the right-hand side of the page, basically over here, okay? And it's going to wrap the text right around that image. So alignment to the right. Now, I know that kind of a max width is 600. So if I make my image 300 pixels wide, it's going to take up about half of this side of the piece of content here. So I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to make it like 250. But again, I can come back and manipulate the size of it once I'm done. Okay, I'm actually going to insert this picture right now, and I want you guys to see something here. If I do not use vertical and horizontal space, what's going to happen is, see the words, they kind of run right up next to the edge, and you can actually see this. It becomes exacerbated as you say, if you were to do one to the left, because what happens is these are all lined up here. Watch this. See that? The words just run right up next to the image, and it's hard to even discern where do the words in here start, right? And again, this is one of those things where when people land on something, it's just intuitive that they expect a certain layout, they expect a certain design, they expect a certain amount of white space. So what I want to do is I want to really make sure when I'm adding images in here, so I'm going to come back and edit this image, that I'm using this vertical and horizontal space. So I'm going to use about 15 is about kind of a standard that I like to use. I'm going to use 15 pixels of vertical and horizontal space. Now, I don't have to have a border. I'm not going to use one on this particular image. I'm just going to hit update. There we go. You see how those words kind of came away from the image, and now I've got right in there, that's 15 pixels of white space. So maybe I wanted a little bit more. I could do 20 or 25, but really I want to give that good amount of white space there that that really kind of sets the words off from the picture. And again, a lot of this stuff for people is it's just ingrained in we look at so much stuff online, and we're so used to in years past looking at the newspaper, and you see a certain layout and your eyes are just able to adjust to it. So having that good white space in there to make sure that the people that land there aren't just going, oh my goodness, this is too much for me to even handle, I'm out of here, right? Our content needs to be good, but the layout and the presentation of it is ultra important, especially when we consider you have such a short amount of time to get them to dive in and say, is this a piece of content that I want to consume? All right, so pictures. There's two ways that we can get them in here. This class is recorded, so you guys will be able to go back, look at this, especially as it relates to kind of these pictures, because the layout on your images, I believe it's very, very important. Just having an image in your blog post is going to be important, initially, but then making sure that they're kind of laid out in a fashion that, again, is just that relates to the eye and allows people to really want to dive in. Okay, so the next little option we have here is a preview. I never use this. I'll show you guys how I preview my posts before I get ready to send them out to the world in just a minute. Spell check, use this, please, right? This spell check, I come through here, and it's just underlining any words that it thinks, might potentially not be spelled right, like although. So I'd come in here and click it, and although is what I'm looking for. All right, so I'm done spell checking. The next little option we have here is an ability to edit the HTML of the blog post. And so when I click on this Edit HTML Source button, what's going to happen is I'm going to see a bunch of stuff, right? This is essentially what the post looks like from an HTML perspective. So we can see a few things in here. We can see like my H3 header tags, and we can see this right here is our link, right? But you don't need to know anything about this other than this is kind of what gets created as you utilize these different options up here. However, let's say we want to add a video, or we want to add something that utilizes an embed code. And there's lots of things out there that utilize embed codes, right? You guys might have, market report templates that you can use from your website, or you might have, like Zillow has widgets, and different companies have widgets that you can pull in. One of the more common things that we see people embedding on their posts is a video. So let's say we had a video of Wallingford. So down here at the end, we were going to finish. Now, if we were putting it in the middle, right, it'd be really hard, or it'd be challenging at least, to come in here and say, okay, let me hit the HTML and then figure out where in here I want to get this video. Like where, right? So what I like to do is I like to come in here and give myself kind of an indicator. This is where I want the video to be placed. And so I'll just put in a little dealie in there that says video, right? Now when I come back to my HTML, I'm just looking for that area that says video, and there it is. And so I'm just going to get rid of all this garbage in here, and this is where I'm going to place my embed code. But I need to go get an embed code, right? So I'm going to come over here. I come to my YouTube video, and this isn't my YouTube video, but let's say it was, and it's about this charming Seattle craftsman home, right? Whatever video I'm deciding to put in there. Let me actually reset this, because this is, okay, so it looks like this when we land there. I'm going to share it. Ooh, it's going to start on us. I'm going to share it. Okay, so share. I'm going to come down here and embed, and then I'm just going to grab the little piece of code from YouTube here, copy it. I'm going to jump back to my post, right? I know in here this is where I want to place my video. So I'm going to hit HTML. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to eliminate all those characters that got generated by me saying video. I'm going to hit paste, right? In my case, Command V or Control V if you're on a PC. Now there's my piece of code in there. But this is going to put it to the left, so I actually want to center mine up. This is where I might need to know a little bit of HTML, and so that's going to be the code to center. and then I want to end the centering down here, and so that's the code to end a center tag. And this, you know, if you're getting cross-eyed right now, that's okay. You can go back and watch this thing. Okay, but this is some real simple HTML. Just going to hit update, and now we've got our video in there. And I might decide, gosh, you know what? I need more spacing in there. That's a little bit tight on that video. So I could either do like a full line of spacing. I could hold the shift button and hit return and give me that half line of spacing. That's probably more in line with what I wanted. Maybe shift, return. There's another little half line of spacing that I can use in there. Okay? Let's say I go, you know what? I don't want that video there. I want to actually take that video. Where is it? Here it is. It goes everything from the center to the center. I'm going to copy that. I'm actually going to slap this at the end. So let's paste it in there. I want to get rid of it here. Delete. Update. Yeah, take that out of there. Put it at the end. Right? And then I can come back here and say, all right, give me that better spacing. Maybe I wanted to say, you know, amazing craftsman for sale in Wallingford. I'm going to, boom, what am I going to do? If you're on a PC, it's going to be Control. I'm on a Mac, so it's Command 3. Oh, boo. Okay, things got a little messy there, right? So what do? I got to come over here to my HTML, and I got to fix it. And you guys see right there, I didn't really want all of that in H3, so I'll get rid of that. And I'll put it right there. Oops. There we go. Okay. So I'm done. Okay. I've got a post now that's presentable looking. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to leave the visibility as a draft. So I'm going to hit post blog entry. Okay. I just want to see what it looks like. Before I ever send this thing out to the world, I need to know, is this what I want it to look like? And I notice, okay, wait, there's some spacing in here, some spacing issues. Maybe I want to make my image have a little bit more spacing around it. But I can kind of get an idea now of what I need to come back and fix. And here's a little secret for you, because if you just go in here and edit now, you might not be able to remember where the areas are that you want to actually edit. So what I'll do is I will open the post up again. So I've got it open twice here. And then I'll come in and edit one, but I've always got this other one to kind of look back at and say, okay, let's see. I actually want my title to be up above here. There's a few things that I kind of want to play with to see, you know, if I can get these to look a little bit better. So like I've got that spacing issue in there, right? Oops. Let's just undo that. Oh, it's not going to let us undo. Again, it can get a little bit messy in here, but don't be discouraged, right? I just need to come in here to my HTML. I need to find that you can. So I'm going to hit Command F. You can find, what does it say? The best news. There it is. Oop. Where'd my H3 go? Uh-oh, things got messy. We're after that. You can. So we need to end our H3 tag right there. Ooh, I wish it wouldn't have done that, but sometimes it does. Oh, okay. So there we go. Spacing, right? And again, I might look back here and say, wait, where else was it kind of messy at? Maybe I want a little bit more spacing in there. Whatever it is, I'm going to come in here and fix it. All right, just get that thing looking nice and clean. Okay, so now I'm ready to go. Let's say I say that's a good post. I'm ready to put this thing out there. Tags. We'll talk about tags a little bit more in the SEO class, but I'm going to call this Wallingford, Seattle. I'm going to hit a comma, which separates, so it gives me a new tag. I'm going to call it short sales, and I'm going to say Seattle real estate. So, all right, my post is about those three things, so I'm going to tag it with those three things. We'll come back here to visibility and set it to public in a second. Hyperlocal pages. So this is about a particular area. The post I've written is about a particular area. We've got all these all this content on Active Rain that if you choose to place it there, can be placed about a particular area. So when I clicked on Seattle, right, this is all content that these members have written about Seattle. There's also an ability for you to write content at a very hyper-local or community level, and in my case, this is about the Wallingford neighborhood of Seattle. So when I come in here, I'm going to come down here and we see the Wallingford, we see the Wallingford page here somewhere. There it is. So we've got a page in here that's just information that our members have written about Wallingford, right? And there's all sorts of content on here about Wallingford. It looks like Courtney does a lot of content about Wallingford. That's fine. I'm going to add mine to there as well. So I'm going to come in here and say Washington, boom, King County, Seattle, and then I'm going to add it to the neighborhood of Wallingford. And when I do that, it's going to place that piece of content on both the Wallingford page and the Seattle page. And what will essentially happen is the lowest level that I put it at, so neighborhood being the lowest level I can place it at, it will place it on that page and the page above that. So if I was writing something kind of in general about Seattle, and I just placed it on the Seattle page, it would place it on that page and the King County page. Okay? If you don't see your neighborhood in there, by all means, go in and add it. And in my case, I'm drilled down to Seattle, so it's going to give me the map of Seattle, and then I just need to get in here and figure out, maybe I wanted to add Stevens. Like Stevens wasn't something that was on there already. I could come in there and add that community, and would actually create a brand new page back here on the Seattle, off of Seattle, that would be for Stevens, right? And if we were to look here, I don't think Stevens has ever been created, so that would actually create a brand new page for Stevens, and then our piece of content would be the first thing on that page. Channels, just try to place it in the most appropriate channel. So this might be home buying, right? And the topic might be foreclosures and short sales. You're just looking to get this to the kind of the most appropriate place. If I'm a member of some groups, right? I'm a member of a bunch of groups in here, but if I'm a member of any groups, I can come in here and post my blog post in up to 5 groups. So Puget Sound, Washington real estate, that might be a group that this would be appropriate for. If I had a group for short sales or something, that might be a group that this was appropriate for. It would not be appropriate for, Indianapolis or Indiana real estate professionals, right? So I wouldn't add it there. I'm only going to add it, here we go, foreclosures and short sales group. But I'm only going to add it to groups where it makes sense based on what the group is about. Categories, just pick one, okay? What this does right here is, when we come back to this blogs page, people can sort content based on if it's for professionals or for consumers. So when you're in here reading blog posts, if you only want to see posts where your peers said, this post is for other real estate professionals, you can sort it by for professional. If you want to see posts that members are writing towards consumers, maybe to get some ideas of things you could write about, you can sort the post by them being for consumers. So in here, this is for consumers, and it's general information or about a region. It doesn't matter, just pick one. And then if I have an outside blog, and if you guys are a Rainmaker, you have an outside blog, I would just check this box. I actually have multiple outside blogs on my account, so I'd have to figure out which outside blog do I want this to go to. If you just have one, it would just be a matter of checking which outside blog you'd like that thing to go to. Allow others to reblog this post. We don't talk a lot about reblogging in any of these boot camp classes, but essentially Reblog allows somebody else to take your piece of content and share it in their blog. And when they do that, we do all kind of the appropriate search engine things to drive the power back to your blog post. But let's say your lender's on here, and you had written a great post about short sales in Wallingford, and your lender wanted to share that in their blog, right? You could allow people to be able to reblog your post, and it gives you credit, and your name's prominently displayed on there, and there's a link back to your original article, but it allows people to maybe add some commentary to a post that you've written and then share it in their blog. This is not my content, but I have permission to repost it. Here's a really good rule. If you don't have permission to post something, do not post it. It's illegal, actually, and you can be sued if you just go over to CNN.com and CNNmoney.com and you just grab an article and you copy it out of there and you paste it into your blog, even if you copy a whole article, even if you link back to the original source, that's still plagiarism. It's still illegal. So be careful. We've got some resources that you can find from our help FAQ and also from our community guidelines that talk about plagiarism and what's okay to post and what's not. For the most part, I would hope that you guys are going to be creating your own posts, right? But there are some instances where you might have permission from somebody. Let's say your title agent walks in and they say, hey, we've got this great article on, Alt-A title insurance policies. Feel free to share it in your blog. That's fine. You can take it. Just make sure that you let us know that the content is not original, but you had permission of the original author to post it. And you just do that by checking that box right there. And then you can actually disable comments on your own posts. And this is I think this happens less than 1% of the time, but the reason people might do this, right? Let's say you have a listing. The seller says, man, I know you're a blogger, and I'd really like you to put my listing in your blog, but my neighbor's a real jerk, and I'm sure if you put it out there somewhere, he's going to get on there and trash my house or something, right? In that case, you can disable commenting on your own posts. Now, once I kind of have all these things figured out, checked, drop down, all that, it's good. The last thing I'm going to do is come back here. I'm going to make this thing public. Now, I have the option to make it members only. If you make a post members only, that means only somebody that's logged into ActiveRain will actually be able to see the content. If you're a rainmaker on ActiveRain, you have the ability to make your post public. So when a post is made public, it's out there, right? Anybody can see it. Anybody can find it. The search engines will pick it up and index it, and next week we're going to talk a lot. We'll talk for a whole hour about how do we get our content to rank in the search engines, but the first step to that is going to be our ability to make the content public, which again you can do as a rainmaker. Members only is just going to be seen by the other members of the community. Draft is just going to be seen by you, and it's how we can save posts. A lot of people will get in there, start a post, won't have time to finish. Fine, you can save it as a draft and come back to it later and finish it. Associates only is another one that's less than 1%. You can actually add people as an associate on ActiveRain by going to their profile. And if you only wanted to share your post with like a group of associates, let's say you were the broker in an office and you added all of your agents as associates and you wrote something about the office meeting and it was really only appropriate to them, you could make the visibility associates only. So I'm going to make this one public, which I very rarely do in a class like this, but let's go down and hit post blog entry. I'm going to say OK, and now I actually have a piece of content out there. And this thing's public right now. I mean, it's out there for anybody to see, sometime in the next 24 hours, although it's often much sooner. The search engines are going to get in here and index this piece of content. The last thing, and this is going to be a part of your action items. You guys were actually emailed out some action items, I believe this morning, or an ability to go in and download the action items. They're basically homework, right? Carrie doesn't like me calling them homework, but that's what it is, right? You guys just spent an hour here. Now let's get in there and take advantage of some of the things we learned and write a post. So that's going to be the first thing. We give you a couple of ideas of things you could write a post about, all right? But another part of that action item is going to be sharing that post on some of your social networks. And so up here at the top, after you've posted a blog, you actually have the ability to share your content. So if I wanted to tweet this, I wanted to put it on LinkedIn, I wanted to like it on Facebook, maybe I wanted to throw it on my Google+, right? I can do any of those things. Let's say I wanted to like it on Facebook. Boom, I liked it. That thing has gone over to my Facebook page right now. Ooh, I can't get rid of it either. So it's over there on my Facebook page. On Google+, I can actually, when I add it, I can add some commentary in about it. So if I wanted to say, anyone looking for a short sale, Wallingford, right? So I have the ability to, I can even change the image if I wanted, right? And I could come in here and share that publicly on my Google+. I can do the same thing with LinkedIn and with Twitter. The first time you do this, if your browser is not logged in to these different networks, it's going to ask you to log in. So you'll need to make that connection before you can easily come through and do these things. But that's your ability to share your post. So there it is. We've talked for the last 47 minutes. I'm kind of long-winded, but we talked about, how do we get a post looking professional, presentable? How do we add some links and some images?